there's one thing that concerns me that I want to talk about, and it's about the response of Speaker Bagbin. I was completely shocked, and I was with the majority leader when he said that he's not sure that those words came from Speaker Bagbin. Speaker Bagbin appears to have said something which is quite serious. He said that the Supreme Court must know, or the President must know. He described the President's comments as myopic, the comments I've just showed you. Speaker Bagbin was able to describe it as myopic, no problem. Then he said that the matter of political doctrine, the Supreme Court ought to know that it's a closed book. The point he was making is that the Supreme Court cannot tell Parliament what to do and which standing order is right or not. That concerns me, because if I put this, if I introduce this photograph to you, here is Justice D.F. Annan, the former Court of Appeal judge, who was himself a Supreme Court, who was himself a Speaker of Parliament. Now, last week I showed you a letter, and Justice Annan is on the far right of the screen. Last week I showed you a letter that Justice Annan had written to the minority leader. In the case of Justice Annan, he actually stood down a parliamentary process so that the Supreme Court will have the liberty and the freedom to hear a matter. The matter before the Supreme Court was about qualification of ministers. We've said that over and over again. Whether ministers are qualified without vetting to be ministers, etc., etc. On this occasion, the Minister of Finance was attending Parliament to present the budget. Justice D.F. Annan decided that for the reason that there's a writ before the Supreme Court, he will stop the budget presentation, let the Supreme Court conclude his work, because whatever the Supreme Court was saying, was going to say, impinged upon the legitimacy, credibility, and the allowability of Parliament to have the finance minister in the House, in the person of Richard Kwame Pepra, to present the budget. Justice D.F. Annan could have said, Parliament is a master of his own procedure, let's go ahead. And whatever the Supreme Court decides, let them decide. But in his wisdom at that time, and in setting very clear and obvious precedent, Justice Annan decided that Kwame Pepra should not present the budget. Tonight, we are hoping that Speaker Bagbin does not have any entertainment, he doesn't entertain any thoughts in his mind and consider the Supreme Court's ruling as an affront to his authority as Speaker, because based on the kinds of things he started saying, it's very, very dangerous. This has never happened in the history of our country, and that's why in our flyer we wrote from Quist. Emmanuel Quist was the first Speaker. He had rulings from the Supreme Court for and against Parliament. Nehemiah Olenu had rulings for and against Parliament. In the case of Nehemiah Olenu, the government, which at that time was part of Parliament, because in the constitutional arrangements of the Second Republic, the entire government was in Parliament. And so the majority side in Parliament were really the government. And they had taken a decision, legislative decision, that the Supreme Court has said was illegal. It was served on them. It was served on Parliament. Nehemiah Olenu obeyed it. In the case of the Third Republic, that's what President Akufo-Addo was referring to. It was a major one, very major one. The Parliament had proceeded to conduct a vetting on a Chief Justice nominee. The nominee for Chief Justice by President Liman, they had vetted him. The person in question, Justice Apalu, felt that he shouldn't have been vetted because he was already Chief Justice anyway by the transitional provisions of the Constitution. And so a constitutional interpretation was triggered in the Supreme Court. And Nana Akufo-Addo and Chachu Chikata and others urged upon the Supreme Court that you can tell Parliament that something they have done pursuant to their standing orders, so long as it violates the Constitution, is illegal. And so the vetting of Justice Apalu was cancelled by the Supreme Court. Griffiths Randolph accepted it. He didn't say the kinds of things Speaker Bagbin is saying, that it's a political doctrine, it's a closed book. I'll spend time on the political doctrine because Justice Kulendi spends time on it. And Kulendi is not the first judge to talk about political doctrine. Aikins talked about it in the case of J.H. Manson, Attorney General. When we showed it to you the last time, Justice Aikins said that the fact that the matter is of a political nature does not mean the Supreme Court cannot comment on it. The Supreme Court is invited to conduct constitutional interpretation and to make a determination whether or not any bill, act of Parliament, any law has found itself to contravene an aspect of the Constitution. If they find that, they will strike that out, that other law out. And that was clear in Aikins. That's clear in Kulendi, which I'll show you. So Speaker Bagbin says that it's a closed book, it's a political. We are really hoping that he doesn't do that. And who else did I? That's Professor Michael Quaid, that's Peter Ajete. I mean, the tradition of speakers that we have had in the House, I forgot to include Do Ajao. who was actually sued by some people at the Supreme Court, Samata Mensenko. Now, the tradition of speakers that we have had, both on the NDC and MPP side, have been speakers who have made obeisance to the law. We sincerely hope that ASK Bagbin, given his long experience in Parliament as a legislator, will not be the one to violate the Constitution. And I'm saying that because some of the things he started saying is very worrying. Particularly worrying for a Speaker of Parliament when the ruling has come from Supreme Court says that, oh, the opinion of the President is myopic and Parliament has its own authority and it's a closed book. I'll show you a video later tonight where Mr. Bagbin's first reaction to this problem was to tell legislators that he's happy that the Supreme Court was dealing with it. That's what he said. He said he's happy that the Supreme Court is dealing with it. I'll show you the video. It's going to come shortly. He's happy that the Supreme Court is dealing with it. Now the Supreme Court deals with it. And the first response from Speaker Bagbin is not that, well, the Supreme Court has spoken, we will obey it, and we move on. Because tomorrow, did they meet today? I don't know. When it comes to Parliament, the first thing he should be telling Parliament is that, honorable members, Section 1093 of our standing orders, based on the Supreme Court decision, is hereby struck out. And have the committee that fixed the standing orders to have a look at it and replace it in consonance with the decision of the Supreme Court based on Supreme Court's interpretation of Article 102 and 104(1) thereof. That's the only thing the Speaker should say. That's the only thing. Politicians like President Mahama can disagree with it. Politicians like President Akufo-Addo can disagree with it. Anybody can say that. But the Speaker of Parliament, upon whom this ruling is given, he may also say, I disagree with it, but he has to proceed in the House to do the needful and to do what the law has asked him to do. If he doesn't do that, he comes up for criminal condemnation. I'll show you that. Put it in Article 2 of the Constitution. Put it on. Let's have a look at it. Let's have a look at it. It's a very serious matter. And for those of us who are constitutionalists, we don't like this kind of brandishing of authority outside the remit of the law and brandishing authority as being Speaker of Parliament, and therefore the Supreme Court cannot say this and cannot say that. That's not very good. Okay, so Article 2, enforcement of the Constitution. It says, any person or group of persons to whom an order or direction is addressed under Clause 2 of this article by the Supreme Court shall duly obey and carry out the terms of the order or direction. 4. Failure to obey or carry out the terms of an order or direction made or given under Clause 2 of this article constitute a high crime under this Constitution and shall, in the case of the President or the Vice President, constitute a ground for removal from office under this Constitution. Have you seen that? This is what Speaker Bagbin is joking with. There is more. 5. A person convicted of a high crime under Clause 4 of this article shall, A, be liable to imprisonment not exceeding 10 years without the option of a fine, and not be eligible for election or for appointment to any public office for 10 years, beginning with the date of the expiration of the terms of imprisonment. So you go to prison for 10 years. For the next 10 years, you are not eligible for appointment, 20 years. This is what Alban Bagbin, the Right Honorable Speaker, is toying with. This is what he's joking with. Let us not joke with this matter. The people who shed their blood and fought for a constitutional order, some of them are dead, some of them are alive. These are the kinds of things they fought for. We should not just come and bastardize the law anyway for political expediency. Your party goes to court and they lose, and therefore everything must come down, everything must bend. In this Fourth Republic, the Supreme Court has given different kinds of rulings. Some of it has favored MPP, some of it has favored NDC. In fact, the biggest ruling, one of the first before 2020, the biggest ever decision the Supreme Court had to make based on the Constitution was the election petition of 2013. And the court decided by a 5-4 majority that the president who was elected and announced by the Electoral Commission was validly elected. Nobody said anything. In fact, the plaintiff in the matter, who was being urged to go on a Supreme Court review, because for a 5-4 decision, a review can change it. A review brings up 2 more people, and so if the 2 more people join the 4, you have a 6-5. And the review could have changed the election petition of 2013. But the plaintiff, the applicant, felt that the review was not necessary, that enough time has been spent. Let's move on. Let's move the country on. Even though there were so many, or they felt that there were so many gaps in the ruling. They felt that they disagreed with it, but they obeyed it. That's the kind of democracy that everybody fought for. Those who do not have a stake in this democracy are the people who talk like that. You remember the famous story of Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived, when they brought the baby, 2 women, the one whose child was the baby said, don't kill him. The other one said, kill him. That's what we are hearing from some of our friends. Kill the constitution, do coup d'etat, because they don't have the Ghana at heart. They don't care about Ghana, they care about themselves. It's only about them. That's all. They care about themselves. These are people that we should look for and deal with. Go back to Solomon. That's what Solomon said. They brought the baby. He said, okay, you say the baby is yours, you say the baby is yours, cut the baby into 2 and share it. And one woman said, no, king, don't touch the baby. Give it to her. And the king said, that's the mother of the baby. Those who have Ghana at heart, don't talk like that. The Supreme Court has ruled. I saw members of parliament write on their Facebook page that, okay, they should come to parliament and see. And I saw Adom-Otchere saying that if this guy tries to vote again, slap him. These are people who don't have Ghana at heart. That's who they are. They don't have any Ghana at heart. The people who have Ghana at heart, when they go to the Supreme Court and they lose, they are disappointed. They say, we've lost the case, but it's okay, let's go on. Because we have to protect the sanctity of the institutions of state. That's the only way we'll be called a modern state. This kind of commentary from MPs and the Speaker of all people says that the Supreme Court knows that it's a closed book and so they shouldn't talk about it. It's a political doctrine and the Supreme Court has ruled wrongly. These were the first sentiments of the Speaker. I was very worried. And people who love Ghana were worried. Then why is the Speaker talking like that? When the Supreme Court has given a unanimous decision of 7-0. In the other decision of election petition for President Mahama, it was 5-4. Slim like that. 4 of the judges thought that the president had not been validly elected. 5 of the judges, including the presiding, His Lordship Justice Atuguba, felt that President Mahama had been validly elected. The circumstances of the verdict was all unnerving because the courts came to sit at 10 o'clock, supposed to sit at 10 o'clock. The judge started delivering the verdict at 1:20. A lot of situations that unnerved everybody that afternoon. At the end of the day, he gave the ruling that the import, because even when he was talking, people couldn't follow, even lawyers, judges couldn't follow what he was saying. Then he knew that people couldn't follow, which is okay. So at the end of the day, Justice Atuguba said, the total effect of this is that the first defendant was validly elected. End of story. Press conference was held. It's okay. That's people who love Ghana. People who don't love Ghana, who love themselves, like Adom-Otchere, the General Secretary of the ND, said, I'll never stop talking about him because all his traits shows that he doesn't love Ghana. He's the one who comes and says that if the Speaker comes in spite of what the Supreme Court has said, go and slap him. And I have MPs writing on their Facebook page, okay, they'll come to Parliament and we'll see. MP called Clement Park, Honorable Clement Park. He wrote that on his Facebook page. Okay, the Supreme Court ruling has come. They should come to Parliament and enforce it and we'll see. What kind of irresponsible talk is that? Is that how you build a democracy? The people who went on demonstrations and were killed by Rawlings for this democracy. If their children hear you talking like that, do you think it's fair? You just come from anywhere, become member of parliament, and you talk loosely like that? That, okay, the Supreme Court has ruled, so yeah, they should come to parliament, and we'll see, we'll beat them. You beat who? I don't understand what's wrong with these people. But if you go back to the Solomon thing, you understand what's wrong with them. The baby is not for them. The baby called Ghana is not theirs. They don't care. They want to cut the baby into pieces because that is who they are. They don't have any love for the country. They don't have any love for our institutions. They don't have any love for democracy. All they want is for them to be in power. They will be in power for everything and at anything. Anything that takes them away from power, it means Ghana must burn. That's what they want. And for you young people who are listening to me, don't go that way. Because if God doesn't punish you, nature will punish you for that. You can't have a country and say that the baby must be destroyed. That's who Adom-Otchere is. He wants the baby destroyed because he's not in power. When the Supreme Court voted for him, that President Mahama was validly elected, he said it's okay. When the Supreme Court votes against him, that the Deputy Speaker can vote, he says go and slap him. If he tries to vote, slap him. If he tries to count himself, slap him. Because in the proverbial Solomon case, Adom-Otchere wants the baby destroyed. Because that baby is not his baby. That baby, he doesn't have anything to do with the baby. He doesn't care about the baby. He was only falsely claiming the baby. And that's what they do. They falsely claim Ghana. They claim it falsely, hypocritically, dishonestly. They claim Ghana dishonestly. So when it comes push to shove, they say kill the baby called Ghana. That's who they are. And we have to be careful about them. There may be some in NDC, there may be some in MPP, but the Bible says that by their fruits you shall know them. So by the fruits of Adom-Otchere, the kinds of things he says, you will know him, that this man wants the baby killed. And I'm very worried tonight that Speaker Bagbin, the Right Honorable Speaker, put back the photograph of the speakers. Put back the photo. The Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament, the very distinguished Alban Bagbin, the guy who has been a member of Parliament. They used to call him the Methuselah of Parliament. The guy who was a walking the knowledge of the standing orders. He becomes Speaker in the most dramatic circumstances. And today the Supreme Court gives a ruling, and he doesn't just say he disagrees with it. He seems to suggest that he will not obey it. I don't even know why they did not call it today that the standing order is struck out. It should be struck out. The standing order, according to the Supreme Court ruling, is struck out. Nobody can disagree with the Supreme Court ruling. All they can do is to go for a review, because tomorrow the Supreme Court will give another ruling. The MPP will not be happy. Tomorrow the Supreme Court will give another ruling. The NDC will not be happy. But the essence of constitutionalism, what we celebrate America for, 200 years of democracy, is that they respect the institutions and fundamentally they respect the law. The Constitution of the United States of America is a fundamental law of the land. And any law that's inconsistent with the Constitution shall be null and void. Whether you are Donald Trump, whether you are Joe Biden, whether you are Barack Obama. In the year 2000, the Supreme Court of the United States gave a slim verdict, 5-4 decision, to determine which president or which candidate had won the American elections. They determined that George W. Bush had won the American elections by a 5-4 majority. Many Americans were not happy with that. In fact, in that particular voting, it was one of the first times that you had seen the popular vote. We saw it again in 2016. But in 2000, the popular vote for presidential candidate Al Gore, at that time the vice president, was far in excess of the popular vote for George Bush. That meant that majority of Americans felt that Al Gore should be president of America. But by the constitutional arrangement of the American system, the way in which they determine their president, you can always have a situation where the popular vote does not match the outcome. So the popular vote was for Al Gore. The matter was about Florida. George Bush's brother was the governor of Florida. All sorts of allegations were made that the Bush family had influenced the Florida vote. The matter went to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court by a 5-4 majority. Single one, 5-4, 9 judges. 5 said George Bush is the president. 4 said he's not the president. That's why we celebrate America's constitutional development. Every American quipped about it. They quarreled with it, but they agreed with it. George Bush was sworn in without drama. He was sworn in without drama. Everybody accepted it. And today we sit here and we celebrate 200 years of America's democracy. And when we are building our democracy, you have the Adom-Otcheres of this world. When the Supreme Court has given a ruling, then they say, go and slap the deputy speaker. If he decides to vote, go and slap him. Is that somebody who should be leading a political party? Is that somebody who should be counted as a leader of our society? When the Supreme Court has given, when the young people in SS3, they read the graphic. Supreme Court rules that deputy speaker can vote. Oh, okay. What is Supreme Court? They ask their father. They say, Supreme Court is the apex court. That's the court that decides on what anything should happen. It's okay. So why are they saying that the deputy speaker can vote? So because the NDC and MPP are quarreling over it. And it actually brought a quarrel in Parliament. So the Supreme Court has ruled. He said, so that's the end of the matter. He said, oh yes, in Ghana, when the Supreme Court rules, that's the end of the matter. That's what we should be telling the 14-year-old boy. Then the next day, he's riding in his father's car going to school. He listens to radio. Adom-Otchere says, we will not allow them. If they come, you slap him. You are confusing the 14-year-old boy. You are not teaching him the ethos of constitutionalism. That is bad. That's irresponsible. And I didn't expect Speaker Bagbin to say the things that he said. And I was happy when majority leader said that he is not sure that those words came from Bagbin. I was happy to hear that. So far, we haven't heard Speaker Bagbin deny those words. He said what the president said is myopic, and that the Supreme Court, they cannot determine what Parliament should do, and that the matter of political doctrine is a closed book. These are the things he said. And he didn't come to Parliament to say to Parliament that the Supreme Court has ruled. I don't know whether the order has been served on him. But let's go back to the law. Let me read that in conclusion. Let me conclude with the law. Let me conclude the law. They'll put the law on and we conclude with it. That if Speaker Bagbin proceeds along these lines, now when a president or a vice president violates a Supreme Court decision, it is a basis for you to remove him as president and jail him for 10 years. Here is the law again. Let me go back to it. Okay. Article 2.3. Any person or group of persons to whom an order or direction is addressed under Clause 2 of this article by the Supreme Court. Clause 2 is the one that the Supreme Court used. Clause 2 is to say that wherever any person can go, any Ghanaian can go to court and invite the court to look at the constitutional matter. So that's Clause 2. Let me start again. Any person or group of persons to whom an order or direction is addressed under Clause 2 of this article by the Supreme Court shall duly obey and carry out the terms of the order or direction. Failure to obey or carry out the terms of order or direction may be given under Clause 2 of this article constitute a high crime. If Speaker Bagbin does not carry out the order, he has done something that constitutes a high crime under this Constitution and shall, in the case of the President or the Vice President, constitute a ground for removal from office. The framers of the Constitution never thought that the Speaker would do any such thing. So you see, they didn't add the Speaker. They said President and Vice President. They didn't add the Speaker because they didn't think that the Speaker can do that. They didn't think the Speaker would do that. They said because President and Vice President are politicians. They are fully political. And the suspicion is that one day when the court ruling comes against them, they will do, and then so they told them that, hey, if a court ruling comes and you don't carry it out, it's high crime. Flight Lieutenant Rawlings, the man holding the gun, he was celebrating his 31st December. The Supreme Court told him that, Mr. Rawlings, you cannot celebrate 31st December. It's a coup d'etat. You can't call it a holiday. You cannot impose your coup ambitions on the whole Ghana as a holiday. What did Mr. Rawlings do? He went to the Oak Stadium and he was angry. But the ruling was given on 28th December of 1993. 28th December of 1993. 31st December had already been announced as a public holiday. On 19th of December, Ghana Broadcasting Corporation and the Information Ministry, 19th December 1993, they published the circular for Christmas and said that Christmas Day, Boxing Day will be observed as holidays. 31st December will be observed as a public holiday. 1st January will be observed as a public holiday. On 28th of December, the Supreme Court came out with a ruling that 31st December cannot be celebrated as a holiday. On 30th December, the Ministry of Information published that 31st December will not be a holiday. That was Rawlings holding the gun at the time when he had just migrated from military to civilian. Because cool heads like Justice D.F. Annan, P.V. Obi, Harry Sawyer, Obeda Samoa, they were around him. Most likely Chachu Chikata. And they told Mr. Rawlings that you can't do that. The Supreme Court says that's the end of the story, please. Mr. Rawlings found expression in his sessional address in January 1994 to attack the Supreme Court. Nonetheless, he obeyed the Supreme Court ruling, and a circular was issued that 31st December will not be a public holiday. And since then, 31st December has not been celebrated as a public holiday because the Supreme Court said you can't celebrate it. That was J.J. Rawlings. And here comes Adom-Otchere and his group. The Supreme Court says that the Deputy Speaker can vote. And your comments are that if he votes, they should slap him. What kind of, how? Do you know that children are listening to you? When they talk, do they know that children are listening to them? Do they know that Ghana must be built in a certain way? Do they think about the Ghana of the future? Do they know that they will not live forever and that there will be a Ghana of the future? And what is their contribution to the Ghana? Or it's just about they being in power? That's all. Is that how they think? Is that how we should allow them to think? It's not correct. Solomon said, cut the baby. The woman said, leave the baby. Because the baby is hers. And the wise king said, that's her baby. These people don't care anything about Ghana. When the Supreme Court rules for them, it's good. When he rules against them, go and slap the Deputy Speaker. Can you say something like that? Should you say something like that? Okay. I'll leave it here.